Imagine waking up to breaking news. The US has declared war on China. This single announcement would send shockwaves across the entire world. Two of the world's most powerful nations are now officially at war. Their combined influence spans nearly every corner of the planet. But how would such a war actually begin? Most likely, it would start in the Pacific Ocean. The South China Sea would instantly turn into a war zone. Both sides have massive naval forces ready to deploy. Battleships, submarines, and aircraft carriers would dominate the waters. But this war would not remain at sea for long. Cyber attacks would hit within minutes of the declaration. Power grids, satellites, and banking systems could collapse instantly. The internet itself might fracture under global cyber warfare. On land, Asia would feel the first major shockwaves. China's borders with India would suddenly become militarized hotspots. Skirmishes in disputed regions like Ladakh could escalate quickly. Meanwhile, US allies like Japan and South Korea would be drawn in. The Pacific would erupt with aerial dogfights. Hypersonic missiles would be unleashed at terrifying speeds. Cities like Shanghai, Beijing, and Los Angeles would brace for attacks. Civilian populations would face mass panic and evacuations. Stock markets would crash worldwide within hours. The world economy would spiral into freefall. Oil prices, food supplies, and trade routes would collapse. And yet, both nations might avoid nuclear weapons. At first, the fear of mutually assured destruction would restrain leaders. But smaller tactical nuclear strikes could still be possible. This would cross a line humanity has dreaded for decades. Global alliances would be forced to choose sides. Europe would be divided between pressure from Washington and Beijing. Africa, rich in resources, would be heavily contested. Latin America would see political upheaval and new alliances. India, caught between two giants, would become crucial. Its decisions could tip the balance of the entire war. Space would not be spared from the conflict. Destroying satellites would cripple GPS and communication worldwide. Civilian life everywhere would fall into confusion. Refugee crises would explode across continents. Cities could run out of food in weeks. Modern life as we know it would collapse. Militarily, the US has global reach. But China has massive manpower and regional dominance. Technology would be the deciding factor. Artificial intelligence would analyze battles in real time. The first year alone could cost millions of lives. Infrastructure would be destroyed across Asia and America. Climate would suffer as oil refineries and cities burn. Global warming would accelerate dramatically. The war could even trigger a mini-nuclear winter. Humanity would be pushed to the brink of survival. Smaller nations might try to mediate peace. But mistrust between US and China would remain unshakable. Any false move could spark further escalation. The United Nations would struggle to keep control. Billions would demand an end to the madness. Yet both sides would fear losing face. If war drags on, economies could collapse beyond repair. Poverty and famine would return on a massive scale. Diseases would spread quickly in refugee camps. Humanity would face its darkest chapter since World War II. Could the war end before it destroys us all? Maybe diplomacy would eventually force a ceasefire. But scars of this war would last for generations. Entire cities might never recover. The balance of global power would shift permanently. Allies would be reshaped, and rivalries hardened. The war might even spark revolutions at home. Dictatorships could rise in the aftermath. Or humanity could finally learn from near-total destruction. But peace would come at an unimaginable cost. Every life lost would echo for centuries. The world would never be the same again. A US-China war would not just be their war. It would be everyone's war, touching every human on Earth. Leaders know this, which is why restraint is so critical. But history has shown how quickly restraint can vanish. World War III could begin with just one miscalculation. The cost would be beyond imagination. Nations would struggle to rebuild from ruins. New superpowers might rise from the ashes. Or humanity might collapse entirely into chaos. Every choice, every battle, would decide the future of humanity. Could technology save us, or only make it worse? Could diplomacy survive in a world so divided? Or would the planet finally fall into total war?